Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to not really do a Friday Reads video. This is going to be more of a TBR video or talking about TBR videos, but I'm releasing it on Friday, so it's my replacement video for a Friday Reads video. I'm not doing one this week because I have been vlogging all week, and so I've talked about the books that I have been reading a lot, so I'm a little talked out of those particular books, but I will release the videos, the vlogs, and I'm actually going to do a sequence of vlogs starting on Sunday. That's my plan, and do one a day or one every couple of days, depending on how much content I feel. That I am way out of practice for vlogs, so it would have been extraordinarily long if I did one vlog. So I decided to put it into more consumable chunks, and even those are going to be pretty long. So I hope you enjoy that. Those will start going up hopefully on Sunday. But today I thought I would talk about TBR because it is totally the day I would record my June TBR, because I do tend to bulk film, so this is the time when I would do it, and I realized I don't have one. I do not have a June TBR, and so, like, with the exception of two books, which I will talk about in a second, but it's kind of funny, I just never, I can't, I could look on my spreadsheet to see how far back it's been since I've been doing monthly TBRs, and it's been a long time, like all through this year and last year at the very least, I've done a monthly TBR, and I do it in my spreadsheet, and I sort of compare against it, like, so every day I type it up, and then I write finished 1, finished 2, finished 4, whatever, and I have all of these checks and balances that I do, and all of this tracking that I do, because that's the kind of person that I am, but some of it I think it's becoming a little, some of the things are a little redundant, and so I'm embracing the non-redundancy by not doing a Friday Reads, or I would talk about the things that I'm going to talk about in my vlog. So I'm trying to cut back on things that are redundant, that I'm doing more than one thing that accomplishes the same goal, because sometimes I do feel like I spend a lot of time, like, not just reading, but thinking about books and tracking books and looking up books and putting them on lists and checking my lists and all that stuff. So I'm like, what's the purpose here? Like, what's the goal here? What do I want from this? And I don't know. That's the answer. I don't know. So with the June TBR, I don't know what I don't think I'm gonna make one proper, but I do have two books. And then I have one project that I am really excited about. So I'll tell you about that. And then afterwards, I'm going to just talk about a couple of different TBR styles that I've done over the years, what's been successful, what's been not successful, and maybe by the end of it, I'll know what I want to do for June or for later or for, like, I don't know. But for June, the only two books I know for sure that I'm reading, the first is Obsidio, which is the third book in the Illuminate files by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. I'm reading this with Izzy and Sarah and Roz, and I am really looking forward to it. So it's been a fun buddy read, and this will finish the entire series. It's if you're unfamiliar with it, it is a YA science fiction series. It is told in a series of documents, so it is differently formatted. I would recommend reading this in physical format. I tend to read a lot digitally, but this one, especially Gemina, definitely had things that you would want to see on a 2-page spread. So I'm glad that I decided to go for the physical editions. Also, I did download the e-copies from the library, and the formatting was too hard to manage on my tablet. If I had, like, some people have really, really big tablets. Mine's like, I don't know, like a little smaller than this, but then the screen's smaller than that. But some people who read, like what if you had, like, a graphic novel and it would be, like, real size, then I think maybe it would be fine. But even so, there are, as I said, there's some 2-page spreads. You want to see the impact of them together. So it's one of the few instances I'm like, no, it's got to be physical. So anyway, didn't mean to go on a tangent there. So I will be reading Obsidio. The live show will be at the end of the month. I think it's the last Tuesday, and tentatively to be confirmed. But yeah, so if you have read the series, feel free to join us. If you just need to read the third book, feel free to join us. If you want to read them all and join us, you are welcome to join us. And the live show will be on Izzy's channel. And then also the other thing that both of these are participatory type things. So the other thing is the rereadathon that Alex Black and Abby Mac Reads are hosting. I I have started all the books for all the prompts, but I haven't finished all the books for all the prompts. But I'm still gonna and because of that, I'm a little hesitant about starting yet another one. I'm in the middle of two. There's two that I haven't finished out of the 5 months so far, but this one I'm pretty confident I can read. So the theme for June for the rereadathon is to read a book that inspired you or a book that gave you the feels, and I think I'm going to be reading, and a lot of people have been rereading this recently or reading it for the first time, and that would be Twilight by Stephenie Meyers. I have a really banged up copy of this. I read it back in the day when the film came out. I even have, I think, a bookmark in here from the film release, which is so old that it actually has the wrong release date because they actually bumped it into November. But this definitely inspired me. I had a Twilight podcast for many years with my friend Marina, and then we switched it to a book to film podcast, and it really got me back into reading the second time, I think, because I've gone through huge spans of time in where I didn't read, and this one got me back to it proper. I went from reading almost nothing to like 50 to 80 books a year, so it was definitely... it really did. And I love the first two books so much. And I have lots of fond memories, and I can't believe it has been 12 years since the films. And if you're unfamiliar, everyone's familiar with Twilight, but if you're unfamiliar why people are rereading, is Stephenie Meyer is releasing an actual copy of Midnight Sun, which is the book of Twilight, this book from Edward's perspective. And there was a draft copy on her website for many years, and I was probably still there actually, but it was only like, I don't remember if it was like 30 pages or something like that, and so a lot of people wanted to see the story from his perspective. So anyway, that's why a lot of people are rereading it, or why it's out there in the ether a lot these days, because that's coming out in Midnight Sun is coming out in, I think it's August. So so that would be my reread for the month. And beyond that, I'm just really, to be honest, I'm kind of uninspired to do a TBR. I don't know why. Like, I usually really enjoy putting it together and coming up with different combinations and looking at different readathons or events or things to participate in, and I'm just not. I don't know what's going on. One thing that does happen though with me is that sometime in the summer, I just get like, I don't want to do anything. Like, I just want to change things. I just want to do things differently. I just want to clear the decks. It's a weird thing. But now that I've tracked my reading and I've done videos, I noticed this as a pattern. This is just one of my patterns. And I think for me, it's just coming a little bit earlier, perhaps because of the situation of what's going on in the world. I don't know, but I just feel, I wouldn't necessarily say rebellious, but I just want to shift things. I just want to knock things over. And I'm just like, it's so unlike me, but it's happening. So, and usually what happens shortly thereafter is that I start on a new project. Now, I have a lot of projects, and I have a lot of reading projects, and even tracking them and keeping an eye on them can be overwhelming. So I do not want to start a new project. Like, I really think that would be not a great idea. So I think I'm trying to lean myself into reinvigorating an old project, and for the past week I have been very engaged with looking at I call it an exploration because it's not necessarily something with an end, and a project does have an end. But it's my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird exploration, which I came up with, I think, in 2016, when I realized that I consider myself someone who loves science fiction, fantasy, and I was really curious about what weird fiction is, or the new weird is. So I made a list, as I do, of about just shy of 200 titles of books, and I started reading through them. And I've read about 34 titles, and I've DNF'd 5, which is a very high DNF rate for me. And I had already read about 40 titles. So overall, that's 34 plus 5 plus 40. That's 40. Nope, that's 80. 80 out of 100. Just under 200. So it means at this point I have 120 titles left. Now, one of the challenges with genre fiction, quote-unquote genre fiction, is it's often series. So you don't just read the one book if you like it. You potentially are committing yourself to 3, 4, 5, 20 plus books. So that means this is very different than some of the other projects and lists that I've tried to work through or that I have worked through, because if you're working through a list of classics or something like that, they're not really, it's one and done almost always. It's very few series. So this is very different. So that sort of means I almost want to DNF things so that I can just not have to be committed to yet another series. So anyway, I've been thinking a lot about that project, and I do have some ideas for maybe doing some videos because I privatized all my old videos, so I might do some videos to reintroduce the project and reintroduce the titles on the different genres and subgenres within science fiction, fantasy, and weird, and just go through what I've read and what I haven't read and stuff like that, because I thought that would be a fun video series, and a great way to get recommendations, or if I've like miscalculated or misfiled something, or if something's, I don't know, if there's something missing or whatever. Like, I just thought it would be a fun video series. So let me know, do you think that would be a fun video series? I would probably do one on each genre of like science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, weird, and then there's a whole bunch of sort of sub genres like speculative fiction and dystopic, utopic, post-apocalyptic, and stuff like that, and horror, some horrors in there too. So yeah, so that's been on my mind a lot, and but it's not necessarily, like, it's a really long list, but do I think I'm going to get through the whole list? Is it my only TBR? Is it a TBR? I'm not necessarily committed to reading all of it. There's a couple that I know I won't read, but yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time thinking about that, and so I didn't even mean to talk about it that much, but yeah, so that's something that's been on my mind, but for some reason I didn't want to necessarily pick stuff off that list for June because I'm already in the middle of some books that are of the different genres, and I only read one book per genre at a time, so that would kind of throw me off. And even these are technically, this is urban fantasy and this is science fiction, so there actually wouldn't be room in June for anything but fantasy, and I'm currently reading a fantasy book which I will not finish by June 1st, so maybe that's why I didn't put anything on my TBR for June from that list. So there is that. So anyway, okay, I'm going to shift gears and now talk about different TBR styles that I've had over the years, and just share with you like what they're like, what my success rate has been like, and because that's what this video was supposed to be about. Oh my goodness gracious, let's get to it. So my most current TBR style, which I've done for at least a year, probably since the beginning of 2019, is very project based, actually mid 2018. At least, probably longer, and it's a project-based TBR. So I have books that I read for buddy reads, I have books that I read for readathons, and lots of different personal projects that I'm working on. Could be my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird exploration, Shannon reads those books exploration, going through all of the works of Shakespeare, now I'm going through all the works of Ibsen. So it's like I pull titles from all of the different projects that I'm working on, and I create a TBR for them. I do try and leave a little wiggle room, especially for if there is a readathon throughout the month. I try and leave sort of like 5 slots free, and I generally come up with a TBR of, initially it tended to be 10, and then it morphed to 20 books a month, and my success rate is only ever about 50%. Which isn't great. I'm very achievement oriented, and I'm very goal oriented, and I feel like I wish I could embrace the philosophy of this is lots to choose from, and I will choose from this, and I will enjoy what I've chosen, and I won't look longingly at the things that are over there that I didn't get to. But the truth is, I often am looking at the things over there that I didn't get to instead of this pile of 10 things that I did, plus additional things. That's the other thing. No matter what my TBR is, almost always I will read, half of my reading will not be from my TBR. It just won't be. It'll be other stuff. And I have tried very rigid TBRs. Last September, I really focused on stacking the series, and I did vlogs every week, and I had like an 80 or 90% success rate in terms of reading from my TBR, and it was a miserable experience, to be frank. I did not enjoy it. Like, did I achieve my goal? Yes, I did. Am I happy that I achieved my goal? Yes, I am. Was it pleasant? Not really. Like, so that, the fun factor in that was very low. And I was also doing a lot of vlogging, which was not a great choice. It was just too busy time to vlog. So that impacted it as well. So I do tend to do 1 or 2 months a year, 1 or 2 times a year, a very, very structured TBR to sort of get through stuff. Like, that was to catch up on a project. And I think last year I also spent a time trying to finish all of the physical books that I was reading, which was not a great choice, but I learned from it and I did finish them mostly. So yeah, so I like trying different TBRs. So, but again, the success rate was high, but the enjoyment factor was low. So I know that that's not a great way for me either. So, and then I do have sort of smaller TBRs for like readathons, and I do tend to pick 1 book per prompt and hope that I'm going to read them all. And I think I've maybe done it like once or twice, and I try to participate in 10 readathons a year. So once or twice in the past 3-4 years is not a huge success rate. And often the titles I don't finish start to just wane on my currently reading for a long period of time. And then eventually I get to them and clean it up. So it's not okay, but it's always fun. Like, I love readathons, and I love just diving into things and being like, oh, this is gonna be fun. But again, the success rate isn't high. And then I also have done in the past, there's one out of these 3 situations has been successful and the other 2 not so much. So sometimes I'll use a randomizer. I did this last August. Success rate was like 1 out of 5 books, maybe. I don't even think I finished it that month. So that was very low rate and that was my Kindle books, and I just picked, and some of them were like, I had no idea I even had them on Kindle, so that was not great. And then my TBR Unwrappings, that's the fun factor of that is like 100%. Also with the randomizer, the fun factor is like 100%. But with my TBR Unwrappings, my success rate is pretty low. It can take me a really long time to finish them, and I finally realized part of what the problem is, or part of the thing I didn't consider, is that I don't only read physical books. So I unwrap 5 books, and I think I'm going to read these 5 books or 10 books, and I think I'm going to read them all in a month. But the truth is, I read digitally, I read on my Kindle, I read books that I newly acquire. So it's not that I'm just trying to get through my physical TBR. That's actually not even a goal for me. It doesn't bother me at all that I have unread books. There's something I can look forward to later. So but the fun factor of unwrapping them is like huge, but it lasts like that day, and maybe a week or something, and then it's just like, oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. So it's a little like, so the success rate, and also it can take me months to get to the books because I read other stuff. So, but one of the things that I used to do before I tried all of these different things, is I actually used to just work with my priority categories, which are sort of the same as my project-based TBR, but instead of picking something, the difference is in the tracking. Instead of picking like a list of 20 books and then marking off if I read them or not, when I used to work with my priority categories, I only tracked when I finished something. So I would just put like June, and then I would leave it blank. Or I might have added stuff. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's been several years now. It's like 2016, I think. But what I was left with was just what I had finished. So it would be like June, buddy read, Obsidio, series and series finisher, Obsidio, and that's it. And then I would have, Ibsen play, and then the Ibsen plays I read, and stacking the series. These are the ones I read. Book club backlist, blah, 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 sci-fi, fantasy, and weird, this title, and that's it. I did not track what I hadn't read, so I'm not looking longingly at what's still over there, So I think I might try that format for June. I'm hesitant because I love consistency, so I really don't like changing my tracking in the middle of the year. However, if it means my success rate is higher and or my enjoyment is higher, I think it's worth it. I honestly think it's worth it. So I might try that and see how that goes. I do have also one thing I have been trying to do this year and for quite some time is to make it through half of the books that are on my currently reading as the month kicks over. So I think I'll still do that. But I don't know, but should I track that? Should I keep it tracked afterwards? Oh, but I like it. I like it. I don't know about that. But I think for June, that's what I should do. I should just put June, and then I'll put my buddy read and rereadathon, and then maybe sci-fi, fantasy, and weird. I want to read one of each of those and put a spot for stacking the series and just leave it at that. And if I make a list of things that I'm curious about or want to try, I can do that. But in the end of the month, only track what I finished as opposed to everything that was a potential. Because the truth is, the books that I don't finish do go back on my I want to read this someday list. You know what I mean? Whether that's part of somewhere else in my spreadsheet on my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird list, or on my those books list, or on my owned unread Kindle list. Like, I have tons of tabs on my spreadsheet, believe me, I will not. Or Imson Plays, Stacking the Series, they all have their own tabs. They all have their own tabs. So I'm tracking them somewhere else. I don't need to look at them every month and be like, oh, yeah, I didn't get to that again. You know, I can just be like, success, 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 success. Maybe that would be better. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on TBRs generally, some of the ones that I have done in the past and the success rate, and just thinking about the fact that I initially think about the success rate over the enjoyment just lets me know that, and my success rate only being 50 doesn't make me happy. Just knowing that makes me feel like maybe that's not the best way to go. So I think I will try this, just put June, and if I read something that's not part of a project, it goes somewhere else. I have one tab that's just everything I've read. But if I can have one place that's for my goals, like, you know, something that's for projects or stuff that I'm working through or lists I'm working through, you know, and then I can look back on it and go like, I read 5 things. Awesome, go me. You know, as opposed to I didn't read 15. I don't know. Let me know, what is your TBR style and what's your tracking style? Does it matter to you that you hit all of your goals, none of your goals, halfway through your goals? Do you have a sweet spot? Obviously 50% is the truth for me, but does not make me happy. So it's time to switch that up. And also let me know if you're interested in videos about my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird exploration. And if you have a particular favorite subgenre, because if I do a video per genre, it'll take me a while to get through them all. And so I'll have to decide what order they go in. So yeah, do you have a favorite subgenre in the world of sci-fi, fantasy, or weird fiction? So yeah, so that's what I got for this Friday. If you want an update on my organizational stuff, I think the Sunday vlog will have that. And but I'm not done. I am not done, so spoiler. Not finish. Anyway, it's okay. It's all okay. It'll be fine. And yeah, so yeah, that's my June TBR, which is 2 books plus endless possibilities, but I'm only going to count the wins. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.